Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Gwen from the Dr. Gwen International Training and Empowerment Academy and host of the iTunes show, The Dr. Gwen Show. I am very delighted to join you here today. And truthfully, the topic today is a challenging one for me, maybe because I feel like I have some things that I need to complete around the topic. The topic I've chosen is how we love. How we love. And it mainly deals with relationships that we have, whether it is relationships with our coworkers or relationships with our family members, our spouses, which are family members, and just about anyone else that we meet. As I was thinking about what I would chat with you about today, it didn't come quite easily for me today. And as I thought about the topic, there was a little bit of unrest that I felt inside, mainly because I feel like I still have some stuff that I need to deal with. Truthfully, I still have some stuff around this topic that I need to deal with. But I feel like we could have a very frank and open conversation about this and deal with our humanity and deal with the way we approach life to bring about what is most positive and best for not just ourselves, but also for the people that we interact with on a daily basis. This topic brought me back to decades ago as a young child. And I remember there were 5 of us children in the family. I was the middle child. So there were 2 in front of me, then there was me, and then there were 2 after me. And my last sister, I remembered how I used to deal with relationships back then. I used to not take anything really seriously, right? So if somebody did something that I felt harmed or hurt me, I wouldn't even remember it. I wouldn't. About a few minutes later, I'd be back playing with them as if nothing happened. And I didn't even notice that that's the way that I operated. And my little sister then, she would say, "What's wrong with you? They just insulted you, or they just hurt you, or they just cursed you out, and you're back playing with them?" Now, this has been really a long time ago. And imagine at my age, I still remember that. I still remember her saying that. And I stopped and I paused and pondered, but it really didn't impact me. And so life went on. We all grew up, and pretty much that was the way I reacted to the situations in my life. I didn't allow them to stick around or to impact me. And then I got married. And I continued being like that, not allowing anything to stick around or anything to bother me, or, just dealing with the situation as it came along. But then, I want to use the word tragedy, but it's not tragedy. A bad circumstance started to repeat over and over again. And I found that started staying around. It started sticking around with me. And it wasn't easy to let go, because each time I would talk with my then husband, nothing would happen. There would be justifications of all of the things that I brought to his attention, and it really hurt. It hurt on such a deep level as I've never known pain before. And so I remembered, and this one is bad to say, but I remembered I used to pray for just him to just disappear off the earth. That's how painful it was for me. And for me to have gotten to that point, it had to have taken much. Because I find myself to be a generally very forgiving person. And so that stuck around. And then decades later, I thought I'd dealt with that stuff and that it was gone. But even before I thought that I had dealt with it, I remembered when those feelings came up that it would anger me. I would get very angry and very incensed about it and how cruel anyone could be. And I would just be all over that before I let it go. Then I started becoming more awake and more alert to my thoughts. And what I discovered that I did was I probably pushed it to another side of my brain and started focusing on more positive stuff. See, I hadn't really fully dealt with that situation to have that completely out of my system, and then discovered quite recently that there were residues of that feeling inside. Whereas I wasn't praying for anyone to disappear off the earth anymore, there was still a level of pain that was associated with the talk. And that's quite easy for us to do if we're not really focusing on becoming alert and aware to those feelings that are showing up as a result of relationships that we have gone through. So now I know I have some work to complete there, and I will. Have you ever, though, found yourself in a situation where you have a friendship? It may be a coworker even, or something happened that you quite cannot let go of, that you are allowing to be front and center of your life every day. Now, you may be like me, who you have kind of pushed it off to the background, and it's not front and center of your life, but whenever the conversation comes up, you remember, and you remember the pain associated with it. You may also be this person who is living it live every day. So you wake up with a start, with that anger that is on your mind day after day after day. And what I want to say is that sometimes we allow our ego and our pride to get in the way so that we don't take care of those unsettled things that need to be settled. We take on the feeling as though we may look less than, or somebody may think that we're weak, and all the stories that we tell ourselves, which is completely not true, that we do that and we tell ourselves these stories that continue to restrict and constrict our behaviors and our actions so that we don't reach out to take care of the things we know we need to take care of. Now, I'm going to talk about some of our church friends, right? You know, you have, and people spiritual in general, but as I said, I only know of the Christian faith because that's what I know. And you know, you have seen circumstances where people come to the place of worship week after week, maybe day after day, and they're holding a grudge against someone else. I found that happened to me with, I told you about this lady who used to just talk about everybody's business. And then there came a time when she just stopped talking to me, right? maybe because I wasn't entertaining her stories or news, but she just stopped talking to me. And I found that very unsettling. And you would walk past and you would say good morning, and then there's no response. And then maybe you think, probably they didn't hear me. But anyway, I'll just chalk it up to that. They didn't hear me. But the next week, you say good morning loudly, so you know they hear you, and they didn't respond back. Nothing. And then it sinks in that, wow, somebody is holding a grudge against me. What do you do about those things? Well, I tell you how I handle that, those circumstances. I request a meeting. I love to meet, and I love to keep the air clean, because when there is unsettledness between my heart and someone else's, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about the circumstances that are happening in my life. And I also feel that it spoils all of my positive energy. It spoils everything good that could come my way. I really want to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. I don't like to go to sleep being upset with people, right? So you request a meeting. Now, have you found that you've requested those meetings and they didn't quite go the way you thought it would? Like, you started a conversation and you are so certain that you're pouring your heart out to make it right, and then the next response from that person is like, wow, how did they get that angry from what I just said? The thing to do in those moments is not to justify your response. This is something that I have learned. I used to justify my response and go, well, I didn't say that, so I don't know how they got that, and I would stick in it and justify it. The trouble with that is that people won't hear you if they feel like you are not hearing them. And you trying to make it right and to make it softer will only continue to produce the counter effect until you really stop and acknowledge what you heard them say. They want to first feel heard, and I know you want to first feel heard. The thing is, I have to take responsibility for the way my conversation is landing. When I do that, I acknowledge my own personal power. I acknowledge that I am in control of the things that happen in my life. And whereas you may not have said something that could upset or should even upset the person, however, you're still going to take and accept responsibility for the things you say and the way you say it. This gives you the power so you can begin to look internally to see, how else may I say this that it creates the impact I want it to say. And even during those moments, it may not be something that you need to say. In that moment, it just probably needs to be that you back up and listen to what and recreate also what you think the other person is saying. They want to feel heard. So you take the bigger ground, the higher ground, and step out. Are you like me sometimes, that you feel like you're tired of taking the higher ground? That you're just tired of being the one to always step out and seem to make it right? I understand how that feels. And there is no hurdle or harm to you continuing to take that higher ground. Because in essence, what is actually going to happen is it's only going to come back in your favor, as long as you are not violating your boundaries. Your clear boundaries that you have set in the relationship should not be violated. And if it is, I've talked about it in the past, how you need to step out and handle that. So perhaps you stepped out and you've spoken to this individual and it didn't turn out. You've listened, you've recreated, and there's just something that's not causing things to work out. What do you do in that situation? There is a time when you can both agree to disagree. There are some souls that are so rambunctious, is what I call them. They are so argumentative. They are so fightifying. I'm creating my words here as I go, but I know you get what I mean. They just love a good battle, and they stay in that battle mode no matter what is happening good in their lives. In that instance, I feel you need to separate. You need to just separate and go your round. There's been a recent conversation that I've had with someone I thought was my friend, and I had made a request of her, and she came back with a bunch of questions about the process that I had asked. Now, this is someone I feel like I had poured hours into, and I wasn't even looking at it as giving to get, but apparently people look at things as giving to get. And as you recall me saying this in the past, that's just a new way of even thinking for me. You know, I just feel that you share and you give, and you don't look for something in return for the person. That's just the way I feel. That's how I know, and that's how I was raised, right? But anyway, the conversation went back and forth, and it was becoming incredibly difficult. It felt like it was an uphill battle, and all I was asking is for this person to review something. Would have been quite beneficial to the individual as well, from what I know, and just looking it over and giving feedback. And the questions just keep coming, and then the criticalness of elements that didn't relate to what I was requesting was continuously showing up, and I thought, wow, this doesn't feel good. So we communicated via email back and forth, and it was really not feeling the way I think things need to feel in order for it to flow right. So I sent back a request, and it was pretty abrupt. And then I thought about it, and I said, that wasn't the way to respond. So I emailed back to try to make things work. And there was a stop on the other end. And I thought, okay, if in the future you feel that this is something you want to discuss, I will be available and ready. And I just left it like that. You have to leave an opening so that people, if they want to come forward after they've gotten over whatever their issues are, that they can come forward. Now, I don't have any kind of feelings, harmful, hurtful feelings against this person. In fact, I love her as an individual. However, that negative energy was not something that I could sustain. And I have gotten rid of a couple people from my own Facebook profile who just does not portray a positive energy in my life. I'm only looking for people to associate with who bring that positiveness and who can also receive it. I'm not in that negative mode. So in any event, who do you have in your life that you may be carrying around on a daily basis, you're really mad at, you are really not settled, you're not stepping out to say, hey, can we talk about this? Or you may have stepped out and they cannot talk about it, they won't. What are you doing inside? Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling as though you would rather have this person disappear off the face of the earth? How do you feel? Do you understand that the time we have on this earth is but very minuscule? It's short. How would you feel if it's someone you really, really cared about, a loved one, a relative of some sort that you are carrying on year after year, continuing, not communicating? How would you feel if you suddenly got the news that they passed? Would that feel good? It wouldn't. You would have a guilt on your mind that you should have taken care of whatever that incompletion was between you and them. So what I want to encourage you to do is to pause right now and to reflect in your own life. Who are you angry at? Who do you have bad feelings for? And then I'm going to ask you to make a commitment to reach out today to make it right. You don't know when you are going to pass. You don't know when they are going to pass. And if that is not even the main point of the story, think about this, that when you are actually allowing those negative energies to seep into your spirit, you are actually blocking the things that are important for you to make significant progress in your life. So give up the ego, give up the pride, be nice to people, and more than anything else, make it right. If someone offended you or you thought they did, make it right. Move forward, hold a conversation, work it out. Really listen, really recreate, try to make it right. And then find yourself giving to those people who may be in your surroundings. Maybe they're in your space. Maybe they're not doing the things that you know they need to do because they are in your space. And you may be carrying that deep within. You may not be angry outright, but you may be withdrawing yourself. Yeah, I've been guilty too. I have been guilty of withdrawing myself, withholding myself, communicating very briefly in brief spurts or brief moments, and not really sitting down and entertaining any length of conversation. Though it's not necessary to do that, however, I could do that to make that other person feel a little more welcome and a little more at ease. So, as I leave you here today, what I want you to do is to examine you, your life, your relationships, and see where can you make it right? Where can you reach out and make something complete? I'm going to take that on, and I encourage you to take that on with me, because after all, life is short. We don't have forever, and all we have is this moment. And so let us make this moment a memorable moment, not just for our lives and the successes we're looking for in our lives, but also for the people around us who will experience the joy and the great thoughts and energy that we exude when we step into our power and do the things that we know we ought to do. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow. Once again, this is Dr. Gwen, empowering lives to live purposefully and passionately.